Hello everybody, it has been a minute. Pretty much just been taking my time getting settled, acclimating to this new kitchen, and today, as promised, we are going to be making sushi at home. If you watched my vlogs, around Christmas time, I decided to start a new Christmas tradition of making sushi, which kind of led me down the rabbit hole of practicing sushi making. And I think I've gotten fairly decent enough at it that I can show you guys how we're gonna do it today. Is there a chance I might mess this up? Yes, I am still really new to the process and still learning as I go. Sushi is like painting. It's about 90% prep and about 10% actually making sushi. Let's go over the ingredients that you'll need, and we'll just talk about the price of making sushi at home as well. I will go ahead and preface this by saying I did all of the shopping for the sushi at Safeway. Several of these items I probably could have gotten cheaper at Walmart, Dollar Tree, or grocery outlet. But since I am a budget channel, one of the things that I like to do is try to give you the maximum cost. That way you have realistic expectations going into this. I can typically say with a fair amount of accuracy that this is probably the most it will cost you to recreate sushi at home. So my total cost for all of these ingredients was $43. Now this is a pretty large variety of ingredients, and you can definitely bring that cost down by buying less variety, kind of just recreating your favorite sushi roll. But I like to make a few different rolls whenever I do make sushi. So we'll start with the necessary rice. Sushi rice is usually a short grain rice, but I have been successfully making sushi with just plain long grain white rice. I really think the seasoning is the most important. So feel free to splurge on sushi rice if you want to, but for today, I'm gonna be using long grain, plain white rice, and this at Safeway was $2.99. Now, the second necessity is the seasoning for the rice. Sushi actually translates to sour rice, and so the sour comes from rice vinegar. Now specifically, I am going to tell you to look for a seasoned rice vinegar. That is rice vinegar that has already been cooked with water, sugar, and salt in it. Rather than having to make your own sushi seasoning, you can buy the pre-made stuff, and it's usually the same price. So save yourself a little bit of money on your own salt and sugar and just buy the seasoned rice vinegar. The other necessary part of making sushi is your sushi nori. Now this is roasted seaweed sushi nori. This comes with 10 sheets, and you only use about a half a sheet per roll of sushi. So you will get about 20 rolls out of this package. This was quite expensive at Safeway. I want to say it was $5.99. I do tend to get it cheaper at Walmart, but again, I'm trying to hyperinflate rather than underestimate costs for you guys if you wanted to make this at home. The other kind of semi-necessary part of making sushi is going to be your proteins. Now, salmon, tuna, raw fish, those are all great additions. They are a little harder to find in stores, and they are a lot more expensive. So rather than doing a traditional raw sushi, I go with a couple of cooked proteins. So I do imitation crab. This is an 8-pack of the leg style, and it was $2.49. And then I also like to do tempura shrimp, and this was an 8-pack, and it was $6.99, I want to say. Let me double check myself on that. Yeah. For vegetables or add-ins, your traditional sushi rolls are going to have avocado and cucumber. Avocados are a little expensive right now in my area. These are $2 each, and I probably could have gotten away with one of them versus two. You don't use a whole lot of avocado, but now I have an extra one if I need it. And the cucumber was 99 cents. So I spent $4 in avocados and $1 for a cucumber. But we're going to add in a few, let's call them fun extras. You know, if you're going out to eat sushi, you're probably not necessarily just eating a California roll, right? So what I like to keep on hand is Kewpie mayo. Now, I have in the past made this with regular mayonnaise like your Hellmann's, but I tried Kewpie one day just to see if it really made a difference, and I do have to say that it did make a difference. it just has a different flavor. And considering sushi, when I go out to eat at sushi restaurants, what I like to look for are rolls with sauces on them, specifically spicy mayo. The sauce is kind of important to me, and it is important for me for the sauce to taste like the sauce that I get at the sushi restaurant. So if that's not important to you, then feel free to use regular mayo. This Kewpie mayo at Safeway was $6.99, and then I also like to do spicy mayo, so we also need sriracha for that, and the sriracha was $5.99. A couple of the rolls that I like to buy have cream cheese and or jalapeno in them. The cream cheese was $1.99, and this little jalapeno was 18 cents. And then one other nice addition is panko for like a crunchy topping, and the panko was somewhere on here, $2.50. So $2.50 for a tub of panko, but you can also buy the panko and the rice at Dollar Tree. So like I said, I could have gotten some of these ingredients cheaper if I shopped at multiple stores, but price transparency is important to me. And so I like to know that if I tell you that I spent $43 on all of these ingredients, that's probably about the max that you will spend if you were only able to shop at one store and you live in kind of a high cost area like I do. You do need a couple of tools, but they're pretty simple and inexpensive. I have a couple of bamboo sushi mats. I got these on Amazon. They were just a couple bucks, I want to say. And then saran wrap, plastic wrap, and get yourself a nice sharp knife for slicing your sushi. That's pretty much it. Like I said, it is fairly easy to make at home, but the upfront cost is a little high because you have to buy the sauces and the seasoning. So like the rice vinegar, the sriracha, the mayo, but those are kind of like one-time purchases. So you would spend about $43 the first time you go to make sushi. And then after that, really all you have to re-buy potentially are the internal components like the crab, the avocado. You probably won't even have to buy the seaweed or the rice very often. So really, I'm going to realistically say that you'll spend about $40 to $50 the first time you go to make sushi, but every subsequent time you will probably spend somewhere between $8 to $15 to restock on the ingredients. So if you make sushi a lot, this can be a significant savings in the long run. It is not going to be a savings the first time you make it. With all of that being said, let's get some prep work done. Okay, that is better. I did forget one tool that you will need also. I guess you could technically do without it, but it is going to make this a lot easier. And that is a rice cooker. I have my Aroma multi-cooker. I love this appliance so much. It is a rice cooker, slow cooker. It makes soup, oatmeal. I haven't really used most of those functions. I mostly use it as a rice cooker, occasionally as a slow cooker, but I love this thing. It's probably one of my favorite appliances that I own. So let's do the rice first. I tend to cook about 4 cups of sushi rice at a time. And one of the things I'm gonna show you in this video is how you can freeze your cooked sushi rice in individual portions so that anytime you're craving a sushi roll, you can just throw it in the microwave, make a little batch of sushi rice, and make a quick sushi roll in like 10 minutes. If you want sushi for lunch one day, which I may or may not have done a few times, but if you want sushi for lunch one day, that is the best way to go about it. So I am going to be cooking 4 total cups of rice, which means I'm going to start with 2 cups of dry white rice in my rice cooker insert. It's going to be a little less than half the bag, so this $2.99 bag of rice will make you about 2-ish batches of sushi rice. There's about 5 cups of rice in a 2-pound bag. I like to know little things like that. It's such an interesting factoid, but I find that it's really helpful in knowing how much of something I need to buy to make something. So 2 cups of white rice. And the first thing that we need to do is rinse our rice really, really well. So cold water. We're gonna start to agitate our rice in the water to get off the starches so our rice doesn't get goopy or clumpy. I'll even take my hands and really kind of rub that rice granules together. Just really get off all those starches. That's all we're doing. When someone says wash your rice, you're just removing the starch. Because when rice is in transit, the grains are kind of just rubbing up against each other in that bag, and they create all this starchy dust on the outside of each grain. And that's what that white, milky rice milk is, technically. That rice milk is just starch on the rice granules. So we're gonna rinse our rice really well, about 3 to 4 times, or until that water is mostly clear. So I will repeat that same process, kind of get my hands in there, scrub that rice together. I like to do this particularly when I'm making sushi rice because the separation of those grains is really important to the final product. Rice is thoroughly washed. We're going to drain off as much of that water as we can. Now 2 cups of rice is going to get 2 cups of water when you're cooking it in a rice cooker specifically. It's a 1-to-1. How I cook rice varies depending on how I am cooking rice. If I'm cooking on the stovetop, it is different than cooking it in a rice cooker. I like to give it a little swirl to level out those grains. Pop that in. Make sure got some rice on this side. Let's get all that down in there. Okay. And pop it onto the white rice function, which is going to take about 35 to 40 minutes to cook. And while we wait on that rice to cook, that's a good opportunity for us to chop some of our vegetables and just kind of get prepped for making the sushi. So let's grab our jalapeno and our cucumber and even our avocado. Like I said, I probably only need one of these. So my $46 or $43, I really only need one of these. So I guess my $43 could have been $41 because avocados are $2 a piece right now. So expensive. That's okay. I usually buy them when they're on sale. Here's a trick for avocados. Anytime I see them on sale, I buy about 6 to 8 of them. I will let them sit on my counter in like a little, like a vegetable basket. I was trying to think of the word. I'll let them sit on my counter in a basket until they get ripe to this stage where they're kind of dark and a little squishy. And then I will transfer them to my fridge and they will stay in my fridge. So that's a good way to be able to stock up on avocados when they're on sale. You just let them ripen on the counter, transfer them to a fridge, and they will be pretty much good in the fridge for a very long time. I've kept them in the fridge for 3 weeks to a month and still been able to use them. Let's grab our cutting board and our knife, and we're gonna start to prep our vegetables. I think traditionally you would use like the English cucumber, the kind that's like wrapped in plastic, but those are more expensive and I'm fine with regular cucumber. I just de-seed them. The English cucumbers, the long slender ones, are already seedless, I think. Could be wrong on that. I don't think I've ever bought one because I'm fine with the cheapo cucumbers, right? I'm gonna cut it in half. And then I'm gonna use a spoon to scrape out the seeds. This is also what I do whenever I make Greek bowls at home, like tzatziki sauce and stuff like that. 'Cause there's a ton of water in this membrane and you don't want that in your sushi. It's just gonna make it goopy. So just scrape all of those inside out, make yourself a couple of little fun little cucumber boats. Now the cucumber, I'm gonna cut these in half so we get these 4 little shorter portions, and then I'm gonna cut them into sticks. And those will be our cucumber pieces for our sushi. And then I'm going to pretty much do that exact same process for my jalapeno. I'm going to cut it in half. You can leave the seeds in if you really want it nice and spicy, but I'm going to use my spoon and pull out some of those seeds. I'll leave a little bit for a little extra kick, but still cutting them down the length of the jalapeno. So I got about 8 pieces out of that jalapeno, which is perfect. And lastly, the fresh avocado. I picked out a fairly decent one there. I mean, it's not great, but it's also not bad. It's got a little bit of browning, but I think I got a nice ripe one, which buying a ripe avocado at the grocery store is always challenging. Avocado, you can really just, again, cut that into strips. I am not a sushi master. I don't do the fancy avocado thin slice. I just cut it down into pieces, and there's our avocado. This avocado is a little juicy, so that's going to be interesting to work with, I'm sure. There's one more component to making sushi at home that tastes like sushi at a restaurant, and that's kind of what we're trying to replicate here, and that is the sauces. So most of your sushi traditionally has, you know, spicy mayo, regular sriracha. Eel sauce is a common one, as well as like yum yum sauce. As far as yum yum sauce goes, I just buy it. I've tried making it at home. I've successfully made it at home. We don't use that much of it to justify me making a big batch that's not going to last that long in the fridge. So I just buy the pre-made stuff at the store. This is the Terry Hose yum yum sauce. We don't really use this much, but again, I like to have it just in case. It just kind of hangs out in my fridge. But we can, however, make the spicy mayo, and we can make the eel sauce. Those are both really easy to make. I didn't include the ingredients for the eel sauce in my cost breakdown. It's not really a necessary component. It's just if you want eel sauce, it's only 3 ingredients to make it. Those 3 ingredients are soy sauce, mirin, which is a Japanese cooking wine, and sugar. Eel sauce, much to my surprise, doesn't actually have any eel in it. It's more of like a really sweet teriyaki sauce, like Japanese teriyaki sauce. So let's make some eel sauce real quick, and then we'll make some spicy mayo. We're gonna grab a small saucepan. I'm gonna heat up my burner here. And to that, I'm gonna add a 1/4 cup of sugar, a 1/2 cup of soy sauce. You can use reduced sodium or regular. I just keep regular on hand. It's a little more versatile for me. And I can always dilute it down if I need to, make it less salty. And then a 1/4 cup of our mirin. Again, this is Japanese cooking wine. Okay. Give that a little whisk to combine all the ingredients, and we're going to let that simmer and reduce down until it's nice and thick. I'm using a spoon so I can show you thicknesses and consistencies. Right now it's still too thin, it's too watery. When you dunk the spoon in, it just kind of falls right off. So keep letting that simmer. And this particularly is why I said to keep a close eye on it, because as you can see, it is bubbling up a little bit, getting dangerously close to bubbling over the edge of my pan here. I usually like to kind of take it off the heat. Let it simmer down a minute. I think that's where that phrase actually originated. Letting it simmer down. Simmer down. All right. Look how nice that is. Now remember, this is also going to thicken up a bit as it cools, but really all you want is for it to be nice and thick and sticky, and just coat the back of your spoon. I'm going to try to very carefully pour my eel sauce into another bowl to cool down. And I'm also going to wash this pan because I'm going to use it to toast my panko breadcrumbs here in a second. The spicy mayo is really as easy as it comes. It's quite what it sounds like. It's just mayonnaise and sriracha. Let me grab a bowl to mix that up in. I don't really have measurements for this one, but I'm gonna say that it's probably about a 1/4 cup to a 1/2 cup of QP mayo, or your regular mayo if that's what you want to use. But I do promise you that QP mayo is kind of the difference between your sushi tasting like you made it at home and your sushi tasting like you ordered it from a restaurant. So about, let's say 4 parts mayonnaise to 1 part sriracha. I think that's pretty accurate. All right, so we have basically 3 sauces then. We have our spicy mayo, we have our still very hot eel sauce, and we have bottled yum yum sauce. Hello, can you focus? Don't say I didn't warn you that this is like 90% prep, because we are still prepping. Rice maker just went off, so let's go ahead and take our rice out. Hot, hot, hot. And then grab a nice large bowl. Traditionally, this would be done in a wooden bowl because it can absorb heat a little bit better, but I don't have a wooden bowl, so I'm just gonna use the bowl that I have. And this tool right here, this is called a rice paddle, and it actually came with my rice cooker. So usually when you buy a rice cooker, it will come with a rice paddle. I'm gonna dump my rice out into said bowl. And this is 4 cups of rice, so I'm gonna add a 1/4 cup of our seasoned rice vinegar. Just gonna pour that over top. And then using that rice paddle, you're gonna mix that all in. Trying not to smash the rice, keep it kind of granular. You kind of do this scoop and swoop motion and then like a slicing motion to incorporate that vinegar throughout the rice. And then this rice also needs to cool to room temperature before we start making our sushi. I'd say it's like at least an hour of prep to make sushi, but it's worth it sometimes. It's really worth it when you're in the mood for sushi and you don't want to spend, you know. Trying to think of like our local prices here. I looked up a couple earlier. One sushi place charges about on average of $12 to $15 a roll, and that includes like basic rolls like California rolls. Then you've got your all-you-can-eat sushi buffets. Those are definitely a go-to. The one that we used to live near was $25 a person. So you'd be at 50 bucks every time you go there for the 2 of us, plus any extras. And then the sushi place we typically like to go here in Washington is one of those belt style sushi places where everything's like a small plate. And it's like I'd say it's like 4 pieces of sushi per plate. And the plate can run you anywhere from like $3.50 to $6 depending on the type of sushi. And usually we like to do that because it's fairly inexpensive because you're just paying for what you eat as opposed to having to order a whole roll or having to pay for all you can eat. Maybe you're only gonna eat like 1 roll of sushi. We really like the sushi belt particularly, and that's where we like to go whenever we do sushi as a family. But the kids really just eat California rolls, so that's what sparked me to start making sushi at home. All right, rice is starting to get a little sticky, starting to kind of clump together. So I think our sushi vinegar is fully incorporated. We're just gonna let that cool to room temperature. I think the last step that we're really gonna do before we start to assemble some rolls is just going to be to cook our tempura shrimp in the air fryer. You need 2 pieces of shrimp per roll of sushi, so this little $6.99 box of tempura shrimp will make 4 rolls. And I guess you can keep comes with a soy dipping sauce, but since I'm making sushi, I don't really use that. The Instructables, oh, there we go. Pan fry, oven bake. It doesn't say air fryer, so we'll just guess on the instructions. Let's do 400 degrees for about 8 minutes, and they should be good. almost forgot to toast my panko, so while I'm waiting on my shrimp, let's do that. So oil in my little skillet, panko breadcrumbs, not swimming in oil, but enough that each one has a little bit of oil, so it toasts up nice and evenly. I suppose you could use the panko raw, for lack of a better term, but I've been toasting it. I just feel more comfortable toasting it. Plus, I feel like it does give it a richer flavor. Your tempura crunch that sushi would normally have isn't really panko, I don't think. It's usually like leftover tempura batter that they deep fry and then they crush up. But I'm not making tempura batter and I'm not running a restaurant. So I find that the toasted panko is a fairly close substitution for tempura crunch. Keep this moving, keep a close eye on it. It will be fairly easy to burn, especially at this heat. Let me turn that down a bit. All right, that is our beautiful golden toasted panko breadcrumbs. Give it a little fancy toss so I feel like a real chef. This is what my sushi station is looking like so far. So we've got our seasoned sticky rice, which has cooled sufficiently. It's pretty much room temperature now. Then we have our vegetables, our avocado, cucumber, jalapeno. We have our cream cheese. I've got the eel sauce in the freezer just so that could chill faster. There is our imitation crab and our tempura shrimp. And then I do have an assortment of condiments up here. So mostly just the sriracha and the mayo we'll use for some of these rolls. And then I have my sushi mats. I have 2 of them. One of them you leave plain and one of them you wrap in plastic wrap. I'm a little nervous to do this in front of y'all. I really hope I don't mess anything up. I have done this a few times, but again, I am not a sushi master. I am just sharing my own process with you guys. I'm gonna grab a bowl of water to help prevent things from sticking to my hands. And try to get things in a place where I can grab everything, but it's kind of challenging on this countertop to arrange things. So maybe we'll just grab as we go. We'll start with the basics. The one that made me start making sushi at home, which is a simple California roll. This one is one of the kids' favorites. So that one's gonna start with one of our imitation crab sticks. The sushi place that we go to actually makes their California roll with crab salad, which is how I'm gonna do it as well. But you definitely can just use the plain imitation crab. So grab a little bowl and a fork, and this is a trick that I've seen people do, and it works pretty well for shredding up, hopefully. You just kind of like use the fork and a circular motion to shred up the crab stick. It takes me a lot more effort to do it that way than what it looks like other people do, but it works pretty well. Then I'm gonna add a little bit of Kewpie mayo, just enough to kind of bind it together. No real measurements here, but that is our prepped crab salad. Each of these is gonna make 2 rolls of sushi. So we're gonna fold them in half and just kind of break them apart. And there's gonna be a shiny, like smooth side and a rough side. And the rough side is where your rice is gonna go. So I'm gonna wet our hands so our rice doesn't stick to our hands. Grab a nice scoop of our sticky rice and spread it out across the top of our seaweed sheet. And then we're just gonna use our hands to kind of pull it down to spread it out across the whole thing. If it feels too sticky, just get your hands a little wet again. Oops. And you're just gonna spread it out across the whole sheet, whole half sheet. I'm trying to do this at a weird angle too, that I don't normally do. And if you have any sparse spots, just grab a little bit more rice and fill that in. I try not to overload it with rice either, because that can make it kind of hard to roll. But once you've got your rice fully covered, flip it over, add on your prepared either plain imitation crab or, as I just did it, crab salad. And spread that out across the roll. I'm going to grab a few pieces of cucumber, overlapping them slightly. And since these avocado chunks are a little on the bigger side, I'm just going to do 2 side by side. Okay. All right, now we're going to roll our sushi with our hands first. We're gonna grab our mat that does not have plastic, because this is just a plain roll with rice. It doesn't have any sauces or anything on top. And you're just gonna shape that with our mat. Just kind of squeezing. Kind of squeeze at the bottom. So you're kind of just shaping it. I do struggle with cutting a little bit. I'm gonna turn this so it's an easier angle for me, but you're gonna cut it. Oh, shoot, that's what it is. I forgot to wet my knife. Okay, let me wet my knife. Wet knife, and you're gonna cut that in half, stack them on top of each other, cut in half, just visually cut each piece in half. And it's not perfect, but there is my basic little California roll. The way most sushi places will plate this up is by taking 2 pieces and kind of turning them on their side. And then that is ready to be plated. Second variation on that same roll is one that I like to make, which is a spicy California roll. So I'm gonna start with the same situation. We're gonna take the crab, try to cut that a little smaller so maybe it'll shred up easier. I'm gonna go through and get that shredded. And this is going to be basically the same, but instead of just plain Kewpie mayo, we're also gonna add, I hate that bottle. We're also gonna add some sriracha to make it a spicy crab mixture. All right, wet our hands. Scoop our rice, spread it out across the top, and drag it down. Again, I'm not the best at this. I'm sure I'll get better with time, but practice makes perfect, right? Add our rice, flip it over, add on our now spicy crab salad mixture. Spread that out. Add on some cucumber, a couple of slices of, let me cut that in half, a couple of slices of avocado, and roll. This one might be a little challenging because that avocado was a little chunky. Don't overstuff your sushi or you will have a hard time rolling it. This one's also a plain rice one, so we can just use our unplastic wrapped sushi mat. And you might wanna, if you have anything popping out the side, you might wanna kind of tuck that in as you roll. All right, I know that this one's gonna be messy, but wet our knife, slice. Come on. This is a brand new knife set and it's still not quite sharp enough to cut through sushi. So you really do need a nice sharp knife if you don't want to struggle with it like I am. But that is our spicy California roll. Again, basically the same, just with the addition of sriracha. So I've done 2 crab rolls, now let's do a tempura shrimp roll. I'll do a non-spicy one. Michael and I tend to prefer spicy sushi, but I'm trying to give you a few different variations of things that you can make with these same ingredients that I have in front of me. So same thing, we're gonna take our piece of seaweed, fold it in half, and break it apart. Get your hands nice and wet and grab a scoop of rice. And press that down evenly across your sushi wrap. Flip it over. We're gonna do 2 tempura shrimp, and you wanna put them so that their tails are going in opposite directions. I'm also gonna do a couple of slices of avocado. I guess I should have put the cream cheese on there first, but that's okay. Grab a little slice of cream cheese from your block. And you're gonna spread that across the whole thing too. Block cream cheese does work best for this because it has more structure than the tub stuff. But yeah, just kind of spread out a little tube log of cream cheese across that, and that is like a basic shrimp tempura roll. Now again, this one's gonna be a little hard to wrap because of the shrimp. It's quite large. So if you struggle with wrapping like I am right now, you can always do bigger pieces of seaweed, like more than just a half sheet. You can do like a 3/4 sheet. I try to do half sheets just so that I'm not wasting any. So what you can do if you like struggle with rolling is to kind of use your mat to help you roll and wrap and shape all at the same time. Yeah, you see how that one's not fully sealed because of the shrimp. So kind of messed that one up, but that's okay. And same as before, we're gonna cut that one in half and then cut each of those into 4 pieces. A little harder to cut with the tempura breading on that shrimp, but the cream cheese is nice because it kind of acts as an extra binder for our rolls. And that is our shrimp tempura roll. Let's make a fun one. This one's gonna have a topping on it. I call this one the Firecracker Roll. So let me wipe off my cutting board. We're done with our nori. Actually, let's get a bigger piece of seaweed for this one because it's gonna get the shrimp tempura in it. I would show you how to do that too. Because your seaweed, this one has like lines already scored on it. So we can just tear off this top portion. So we have like a 3/4 piece of sushi, right? And that should help us wrap this a little bit better. So wet hands, scoop of rice, and now we're gonna cover our bigger piece of nori with our rice. So we've got our rice, let's flip it over. This one is going to get a nice little block of cream cheese. Grab a smear of that off of our block. Being smart and adding it first this time. Just kind of spread that out across. Then this one is also going to get tempura shrimp and jalapeno. It's like it's kind of like a jalapeno popper roll. I love it. Tastes like a jalapeno popper too, right? Now that we've added that extra little bit of nori, this one's gonna be a lot easier to wrap. So just keep in mind, if you're trying to make bigger rolls, you're gonna need bigger seaweed, okay? All right, we're gonna go ahead and give that an initial shape just with our regular mat. And then I've already gone ahead and prepared a little bit of that spicy crab salad just imitation crab with sriracha and Kewpie mayo. We're gonna take a second to kind of pre-shape that to the shape of our roll, and then we're gonna place that on top. Spreading it out across the top as like a fun little topping, okay? So this one's got tempura shrimp, cream cheese, jalapeno, and now a spicy crab salad. And before we shape this one, we're gonna grab a piece of plastic wrap. And we're gonna drape that over the top. Kind of lock in that topping that we added onto it. And now we can use our mat to shape it. I just realized I got my mats mixed up. I was supposed to be using the one with plastic. That's why it's got all this rice stuck to it now. Oops. All right, with the plastic still on the sushi, that's how we're gonna cut this one. Again, wet knife. And we're gonna go across. And the plastic just kind of helps to keep everything secure. And these are bigger bites, so we're gonna cut them a little thinner. Rather than 8 bites, we're gonna try to get 10. I think I got 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, I got 9. That's fine. So there is what I call the firecracker roll. And then once you plate that one up on your little sushi tray, which is what I've been doing with everything I've made so far, you can finish it off with a little garnish. And then we can give that one a little decorative drizzle of spicy mayo. Okay. There is one that I like to get at or I used to like to get at a sushi restaurant back in Virginia. They called it a sea angel roll. So we're gonna try to make that one. So we're gonna grab our seaweed, and this one's gonna get tempura shrimp. So I'm only gonna break off a little bit. One of these days I'll get the spread technique down, but for now that's fine. All right, this one is just gonna get tempura shrimp in the middle. No other stuff other than some, wherever I put it. So we're gonna do kind of like a spicy shrimp on the inside. A little bit of spicy mayo. And then we're gonna wrap that one up. So what I meant to be doing was using the plastic wrapped one on the plain rolls that were just rice, so it doesn't stick to the roll. And then this one is also gonna get some crab salad, but I'm gonna be adding some crunchy stuff to it. I'm running out of time here, so this one is gonna also get some of our spicy mayo. But we're also gonna add in some of our crunchy toasted panko breadcrumbs to make like a spicy crab crunch topping. Same as before, I'm gonna kind of shape that out before I transfer it to the roll so that I can just shape it directly on top. Grab a piece of plastic wrap. Drape it on top. You don't really have to squeeze this really hard. It's really just a gentle squeeze, kind of working from the center and squeezing out. You're mostly kind of focusing on the base, like where my thumbs and my middle fingers are, just kind of squeezing across the length of it, okay? Let's cut this one up. So this is what my sushi place called a sea angel roll. Spicy shrimp, spicy crab, crunch. You can also add in a little bit of extra crunchy topping, a little fresh crunch to go on top of there. And then I'm also gonna drizzle it with a little spicy mayo on my platter. I think that that is a good variety of rolls, and I've got this beautiful sushi platter. Now the sauces really make it. So on the firecracker roll, I added a drizzle of sriracha mayo and a drizzle of sriracha. On the sea angel roll, I just did a drizzle of sriracha mayo. On the shrimp tempura roll, I did some eel sauce and some yum yum sauce. And then on the spicy California roll, actually same thing. Did some sriracha mayo, but let's also give it a drizzle of plain sriracha for a little color. And maybe even a little plain mayo for some color. All right, and with those ingredients, we made 5 different sushi rolls, and I have a lot of ingredients I could play around with. I'm definitely not out of anything. So is it worth making sushi at home? I think that's kind of up to you because it is a lot of work. This took me probably close to 2 hours, I wanna say, to like get it done from start to finish. But let's go eat our lunch, and then I'll show you how to kind of package up the leftovers so that you can potentially make sushi at home a lot faster next time. After I have finished making and eating all of the sushi that we're gonna make that night, I take the remaining rice and I divide it into about, I don't know, 1/2 cup to 3/4 of a cup portions in these little 8-ounce deli containers. Pop a lid on these and I will stick them in my freezer. And I will freeze them until they're solid. Then anytime I want a quick sushi roll, I can just grab one of these out of the freezer, pop the lid open a little bit, stick it in the microwave for about 90 seconds, 60 to 90 seconds depending. And I have quick sushi rice once it cools down slightly. You can just make a roll of sushi. Everything else keeps pretty well. So, you know, I'll throw the imitation crab in like a bag or something like that. I've got the cucumber strips already pre-chopped in a container. You've got your prepared sushi rice. The only thing that's kind of hard to keep is the avocado, and that's just because it's gonna turn brown. That doesn't mean it's bad though. It's just gonna be an unappealing color. So if possible, try to only slice the avocado that you need and don't slice more than that. So about 1/2 of an avocado makes more than enough sushi. But yeah, everything else is good to go. As far as the nori goes though, I do want to disclaim that this stuff needs to be kept dry. And it does not come in any sort of a resealable container. So I tend to keep mine in a freezer bag. Just a 1 gallon size freezer bag. And I leave the silica packet in the nori. And I'll seal that up. Let me get it in there so that the nori also keeps fresh in my pantry. So yeah, if I wanted sushi for lunch tomorrow, I could have sushi for lunch tomorrow. We did eat a good bit of it though. Hold on. We made pretty good progress on this. I'm gonna pack up the rest of these leftovers. I would say that between both of us, our favorite rolls, Michael's favorite roll was the shrimp tempura roll that I made with the cream cheese and avocado. Now I did drizzle some eel sauce on that one, and that's why he loved that one so much. And then beyond that, the firecracker roll, the one with the cream cheese and jalapeno and the spicy crab topping. But any and all of these sushi rolls that I made today are fantastic. We just tend to, we're sauce people. We really like sauces. And so whenever I'm at a sushi place and looking at the menu, I'm pretty much exclusively looking at the sauces that are on the sushi. I'll look for that little chili pepper symbol that means it's spicy. I'll look for spicy mayo, eel sauce. Like the more sauces you can throw on there, the better. That's just how I like my sushi. I know that's not traditional, but we enjoyed this sushi and I know it was a labor of love. You guys will have to decide if it's worth making for you. For me, it is because the kids really love that California roll. And one thing to know about me is that I struggle with eating out. Like even treating myself to eating out, because there's almost nothing that I know that I can't make halfway decent at home for a fraction of the cost. And I really just added sushi to that list. Like, it used to be something I would treat myself to, but now I know how to make it. And it's like, well, if I can make it, you know, I try to only eat out for things that I know I either can't make at home or can't really make it at home cheaper, like Taco Bell. I've done several episodes on how to make Taco Bell at home, and it almost always doesn't really quite work out to be cheaper than just going to Taco Bell. Okay, well, that is how I make sushi at home. I know this was a longer episode. There was a lot involved in this, but I hope it gave you some good ideas. Thank you so much for hanging out with me in my kitchen today. Hope you're having a fantastic day, and I will see you again soon.